With GPUs finally being readily available and prices falling, the question a lot of people have on their minds is, should you pick up a graphics card or should you wait for the next generation that are expected to come out later this year? Let's discuss that in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. Last month we talked about how the GPU market was undergoing a crash as prices were starting to come back down to earth, and along with that, GPU availability has gotten considerably better as well. You can now hop onto your local electronics e-tailer website, or if you have a physical location nearby, you can walk in and find GPUs sitting on the shelf. So that's great. If you need a GPU right now, you don't have to endure drastic measures to hunt down a GPU, or camp, or actively be on the lookout for alert streams. When it comes to pricing, while things have improved, they haven't quite reached MSRP. Now, with that said though, if you go online and take a look at pricing for AIB cards, it's not too far off from MSRP, and it's gotten to the point where you could say it's normal because even in a market with no pandemic or chip shortage, AIB cards are generally marked up, especially the higher tier premium cards like Strix, For the Win 3 Ultra, Aorus Master, etc. So it's great to see that the situation in the GPU market has improved so much and GPUs are attainable easier than before. One of the main concerns I keep hearing and reading about is whether or not you should even buy a GPU right now, because both AMD and Nvidia will be releasing new GPUs later this year. The answer to that question, unfortunately, is not a simple yes or no answer, because it's all quite relative. It depends on what your situation is like, what performance and price you're after. However, we'll be going over some reasons from both sides as to why you should wait instead of buying a GPU, or not wait and instead buy a GPU right now. Let's start off with why you should not buy a GPU right now, and instead wait until the next generation GPUs are released. The first reason is pricing. I know we just talked about how everyone is rejoicing that GPU prices aren't sky high anymore, however they aren't cheap either, and are nowhere near the prices where they should be this late into the GPU cycle. Traditionally, this late into a GPU cycle, we've seen graphics cards start to drop well below MSRP. You don't even have to go too far back to see this, as it also happened with the RTX 20 series GPUs. Here I found this old post from the Build a PC subreddit where deals get posted regarding PC parts, and on March 23rd, 2020, so roughly the same lifespan as what we're dealing with right now for the 30 series, we can see someone posted a deal for the RTX 2080 for $550 US. The RTX 2080 Founders Edition had an MSRP of $699, so this was well below that. So even though the GPU was out for about 18 months into its life cycle, I'd be okay buying it because that discount justifies that. Unfortunately, that's not the case for the RTX 30 series. I know this series has been an anomaly because no other generation had to go through harsh conditions of a worldwide health crisis and a very bullish crypto market, leading to huge chip shortages globally. But these are the facts that consumers have to face right now. If you're interested in buying an RTX 3080 or an RX 6800, you're still going to be paying above MSRP, even though these GPUs are anywhere from 18 to 20 months into their release cycle. Not a lot of people would be okay with that. I certainly would not either. Even now, as I see deals get posted to the Canadian Deals subreddit, sometimes I think about grabbing a GPU to play around with, but then look at the prices and realize that it's still too high to justify. Last year when I migrated my components over to a white PC case, I'd also love to put in a white GPU to match it with everything. Then I see the price tags for a white GPU model, and I'm completely discarding the idea there. If it was MSRP, I'd be tempted, but seeing them still go for $300 or $400 higher, no way. Also, while we don't know how expensive the next generation GPUs will be, if they do follow that same traditional pricing scheme as the previous gen, then you'll have gotten way more performance out of your dollar, spending the same amount just by waiting another 5 to 7 months. Or you might be able to save some money as well. Traditionally, X70 class cards have always matched the X80 Ti class cards from the previous generation. So imagine being able to buy an RTX 4070 for $600 or $700 and it matching the 3080 Ti, which goes for about $1,200 USD. Not sure this is going to happen for sure, but it's a possibility. The thing is, I'm not the only one thinking that though, many people are, and it's reasons such as this that they're hesitant on buying a GPU right now because they don't want to be remorseful. Worst case scenario, when the new generation comes out and they're not as cheap as everyone expected them to be, I'd rather overpay for a new generation GPU that just came out rather than overpay for something that will be 2 years old at this point. Speaking of price to performance, the performance factor is also the other major reason why people are leaning towards just waiting it out until the next generation. There have been many rumors circulating over the past couple of months pertaining to performance for AMD's and Nvidia's next generation graphics cards, with AMD adopting an MCM design similar to what they've been using for their Ryzen desktop SKUs. Many are speculating that this could be AMD's biggest leap yet when it comes to graphics cards. The exact performance isn't really known yet, and I can't really give you guys a quantified answer, but some of the rumors have pointed towards AMD's Navi 31 offering performance that's twice as fast as Navi 21, and that Navi 33, which is a lower end SKU, will end up matching the RX 6900 XT, which is currently AMD's highest gen offering. Meanwhile, Team Green has also been rumored to offer similar performance leaps with their next-gen Ada Lovelace GPUs. Performance is a topic that definitely deserves its own video. There's just so much information to go over, so I won't be going through all of that info here. Long story short, there will be significant performance improvements across all segments, which is why people are deciding to wait for the next-gen GPUs. It's circling back to the pricing factor. Why would I pay like $850 for an RTX 3080 right now when 5 months later I can get an RTX 4080 for roughly the same price and it will be way faster? Of course, with the increases to raw traditional rasterization performance, we should see some significant gains when it comes to ray tracing. There are many games now that implement this tech, and it can be quite graphically demanding. So for those enthusiasts wanting the best ray tracing GPU because you really want to enjoy all that eye candy, then you'll want to wait for next gen. The other argument I've seen pertains to warranty and support. When it comes to warranty, this is kind of dependent on your region. In most parts of the world, your warranty starts from the day you purchase the product. But I've heard that in some places, the warranty period starts from the period the day the part is shipped from the factory. The thing is, when you purchase a part so late into its life cycle and then send it in for repair, the RMA process can get a bit messy because then the company doesn't actually have a replacement part because it's discontinued. But then most of the time I've had this happen to me, it just resulted in me getting the modern equivalent at the time. So not a huge deal there. However, support for the manufacturer is a completely different thing, as a new generation card will obviously have longer support when it comes to drivers, bug fixes, security updates, and feature additions, whereas buying a card that is almost 2 years old, you gotta ask yourself how long you plan to keep it because it's obviously going to have a shorter lifespan when it comes to manufacturer support. Also, when it comes to vulnerabilities, I find manufacturers prioritize their newer series and then updates trickle down to the previous generation, if at all. At least that's usually the plan, but I do also see them get neglected. Since we're on the topic of future support, what about new software features? There could be some really cool new updates we can see in regards to tech such as ray tracing, streaming features, performance enhancements features, and much more. For example, when Nvidia released RTX Voice, they said you needed an RTX GPU for it to work, but many people got it working with older 10 series GPUs. Or when AMD introduced Smart Access Memory, they said it wasn't compatible with the RX 5000 series GPUs, even though they weren't that old. That's the other reason why a lot of people want to wait, because alongside hardware releases, AMD and Nvidia will also bring out cool new software features that can be very beneficial to gamers and creators. Another reason why you might want to wait even though you're not interested in picking up a newer generation GPU is because prices of older models could fall drastically as retailers will be clearing out older stock. This is another one of those region-dependent situations as retailers still want to make up some margin, or at the very least, if they're going to be selling for a loss, they don't want to be losing a huge chunk of money. But hey, if you wait, chances are you might be able to score a really nice deal on a previous generation GPU. Or if you're confident in the used market, there might be someone upgrading willing to let their old GPU go for very cheap. So those are some of the main common reasons as to why you might want to consider waiting for next generation GPUs. Now let's talk about why you shouldn't wait and why you'll want to pick up a new GPU right now. For most of these factors, it really boils down to the fact that you don't know what you don't know, whatever the future holds, so why take the risk in waiting? Even though prices are falling and availability of cards has gotten considerably better, this has been mainly due to the fact that the crypto market and mining has crashed. However, for all we know, there could be another huge bull run and crypto mining may become profitable again. Therefore, prices can go back just as easily as they came down. GPUs can be really scarce again. A lot of people have been waiting for what seemed like an eternity just to wait for the crash to happen, and now that it has, you don't want to waste the opportunity in being able to pick up a GPU. Speaking of pricing, I know how I mentioned an RTX 4070 matching the performance of an RTX 3080 Ti for half the price. What if that doesn't turn out to be the case? Both AMD and Nvidia can come in with drastically higher prices across all segments when it comes to the previous generation. A 4070 might retail for $699 at this time, and an RX 7800 XT might have an MSRP for $899, as opposed to its predecessor, which sold for $649. Look at how insanely expensive GPUs had become over the past couple of years, yet they were still flying off the shelf. This may have given these manufacturers the green light to raise their prices significantly without really any repercussions. Sure, the band of tech reviewers will voice their opinion on the matter, and people in general will call them overpriced, but at the end of the day, after all the outrage, they're still selling out. That's all they care about. It's their bottom line. Another reason why you probably don't want to end up waiting for new GPUs is because who knows what the availability will be like. Due to how much demand there is still for graphics cards, I'm expecting these next-gen GPUs, regardless of the price, to be sold out instantly, just like with what happened with the previous generation. When the RTX 30 series launched, it was a disaster. Their websites were crashing, it was crazy. And this was before the whole crypto mining boom. Considering the fact that we're still dealing with the aftermath of the virus, supply will be limited. So you might end up waiting for a new GPU only to find out, hey, you have to wait even longer because new GPUs are in such short supply. Then people might end up getting fed up and say, well, I'll just buy a previous gen GPU, and now suddenly those ones are in short supply. Then guess what? You can't buy any new GPU. Along with that, the performance of these GPUs might not be good as expected. I know the rumors and leaks have been pretty crazy, but let's just pump the brakes for a minute. At the end of the day, this is all still unconfirmed info, and it's to be taken with a grain of salt. There have been many examples of this being the case in the past, of series being very hyped, and then when it actually came to being released, they barely performed up to expectations. A lot of people theorized that Vega would be performing just as good, if not better, than a GTX 1080 Ti, but turned out far worse. Similar things happened with the RTX 20 series, where many people were speculating that the series would have just as big of a jump as Pascal did, and then when it actually came to reviews, the cards really weren't that much faster when it came to traditional rasterization performance. I doubt that this will be the case though. We're more than likely going to see significant performance uplifts. But hey, if you're happy with the performance that these current gen cards are offering right now, then go for it. It really depends on your current situation. Like if you're targeting 1440p 144Hz gaming, a 3080 can fulfill that quite easily right now. You don't need to wait for next generation GPUs. Now with large performance improvements, there is a cost associated with it that you should be aware about. That is high GPU power consumption figures. There have been many rumors concerning usage for Nvidia's next-gen GPUs having crazy power consumption figures, where people are speculating that these RTX 4000 series cards will be very power hungry, with the top SKU reportedly having a TGP rating of 900 watts. Obviously, the high-end Halo product will probably have some outlandish power figures, but even for mid-range cards like the 4070, we're hearing that they'll be much more power hungrier than the last generation. And so with power-hungry GPUs, you might not even have the power supply currently to support it, which means you'd be looking at another component in your system that you'll have to upgrade that'll lead to higher costs. There haven't been too many rumors concerning this amongst AMD GPUs, but we'll see what happens. The last reason I wanted to talk about, and this is an obvious one, that is if you need a GPU right now, go get it. You were sick and tired of waiting for the GPU shortages to end and prices to come down, so now that you finally have your chance, you might as well take advantage of it. You don't have anything else at this time to bide you over until the next generation, and you've got new games you want to play like Elden Ring, Warhammer 3, Forza Horizon 5, and more. In this situation, you can't really help it now, can you? Now, if you're in this camp and you're really conflicted, one suggestion I have for you is that you can get something cheap but capable on the lower end side, like an RTX 3050 or RX 6600, play at 1080p with appropriate settings. This way, at least you'll still be able to play games at an acceptable quality, and at least with 60 FPS, and this can hold you over until next generation. It won't be a lot of money to invest in a temp GPU like this, whereas buying a higher end one and then finding out that there's something much better for around the same price can lead to someone being very remorseful. Those were some of the common reasons I wanted to go over in this video as to why you would want to wait for next generation graphics cards or just pick up a GPU right now. I'm sure there are more reasons than that, of course, and it really just comes down to the individual and what their circumstances are like. This is also why I didn't want to just give a definite yes or no answer, and I didn't want to make a one-sided discussion. Now, if you were to ask me personally, like what I would do, I'd be leaning towards the waiting side as opposed to picking up a new GPU right now. Mainly because, hey, I've got the hardware that's able to hold me over for the time being, but the biggest reason for me is that I just don't feel comfortable buying a GPU for near MSRP 2 years later. And I know I'd be remorseful if I found out that for the same amount of money that I spent, I could have gotten a significantly better GPU had I just waited about 5 to 7 months, so I'll take my chances. Even if I didn't have a high-end GPU right now, forget about me being a reviewer, I'd probably be looking for deals on something like a lower-end GPU, like a 1660 Ti, a 3050, or something like a RX 590, and use that in the meantime. If you were on the fence about waiting or buying a new GPU, hopefully this video helped you in terms of making a decision you can feel comfortable with, or at the very least give you some clarity on what you might want to do in the future. At the end of the day, the decision is ultimately yours to make. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.